Welcome to the 1878 FM podcast. It is episode 25. I checked this week. It's 25. So there you go. 25. Wow.
I still don't find that relevant.
Well, why I'm saying it's relevant is because it's the amount of games that Everton have played and the unsure 17 goals. And we've done the amount of podcasts, which means there's only been 17 occasions in those 25 when we've been able to discuss a goal. But when you actually drill down the numbers, I think it's only like 12 games they scored in. So that means there's been more podcasts where Everton haven't scored than have scored, and we've done 25. So, I
think also it just shows some kind of, it shows it's an established thing now. I mean, a podcast that's 25 episodes old, not every podcast gets to that, and I think
we've had a few that haven't as well, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay, isn't it?
There you go.
It's all right, yeah.
And it's very enjoyable. We're bushless today, which we've had a Hollywood. We've had a Hollywood today. We've got no bush. We'll be back on why he's not here in a bit. But let's get the depressing side of football out the way.
Is there any other?
No, I mean, you've had lots of really good talks about like MLS, which wasn't depressing, and other. There isn't where Everton are concerned. Once Everton come into it, it's the Alpine and the balloon. Yeah. Dave, 2 games in, what was it, 5 days, 4 days, 5 days. No goals scored, 6 conceded, 2 defeats, 1 more disappointing than the other, because one for me was a very presentable chance of getting points. The other was a bit of a capitulation, which is classic Everton. But I mean, both defeats portrayed worrying signs, didn't they? Really, that we just have not got a clue how to score a goal, even when a goalie is seemingly laying on the floor and the ball is in the 6-yard box and there's no way you can miss. Tom Davies contrived to not put the ball in the back of the net. But he's not the only one, as Sam Smith said.
It's more than worrying. I mean, I think it's just the reality, isn't it, of the situation? And in the same way that Dyche was asked if it was a reality check after the Villa defeat, and obviously it's not, because he knows what he's come into. He knows all of the strengths and many weaknesses of the squad that he's inherited. But I don't know. I find, so we're recording this on the morning after the Arsenal defeat, and I found myself this morning just feeling really, really flat. I mean, it wasn't helped by the fact that I watched a very well made, I thought, BBC little short film about, can Everton be great again, in which pretty much highlighted in glorious technicolor, the potential doom that surrounds us, while also having many shots of our beautiful new stadium and what division indeed we will be in at the time of entrance. I just feel really, it's a strange one, because on one hand, it's not like we got battered 4-0 by Wolves last night. We got beaten by arguably the best team in the land at the moment at their place. And there's no shame in being beaten by them. 4's a bit heavy, but, there's no shame in being beaten by them. But I think it's just the whole aspect of just time running out and just thinking, where do these points come from? And when you track back to where we were last season and how tight our escape was, and you just look at it now, and just weeks go by and just points aren't coming in, and you look ahead, and I mean, Sunday is absolutely massive, because you just look, I was like, where are they going to come from? I mean, will we beat Brentford? Maybe, but they're a better side than us and have been all season. Chelsea away, nah, you don't fancy that. I mean, even under Potter, Spurs, no. Man United away, no. Fulham are a better side than us, but we desperately need points there. Palace away, we need points there. And then we've got Newcastle, who are good. It's like, where do they come from? And by the time you get there, it's nearly May.
I had a look this morning. Someone put the fixtures up and put nice easy set of fixtures next, boys, or something. And then, when you see the fixtures out in front of you, because in your mind you keep going, well, we've got 13 games to go, 5 wins. I know it's a big ask, but it's doable if you get a couple of quick wins and all that. But then when you look at the fixtures, so we've got Forest, which is huge.
Yeah.
You know, we could win that. If we win it, we're a point behind them. That turns, I think that turns your mentality again then, because you think, right, we've won a game and there's someone in and we've got a home game. But just imagine if we don't win on Sunday and then we don't beat Brentford at home. I know this is ultra negative, but I'm just saying, just imagine. Say we drew both games, right?
Yeah,
say we drew both games.
Yeah.
We then go into games against, like you just said, Chelsea, Tottenham and Man United. Now, we don't ever beat Spurs at home.
No.
Chelsea away, we haven't won this since 1995. 94, actually, December 94. And Manchester United, we've won once in 25, 26 years, whatever it is there. So there's three teams we don't, in those scenarios that we don't normally win. If you take that block of fixtures out, all of a sudden Everton have got to win 5 of 8 games. Yeah. And one of them's Man City, and one of them's Newcastle. So all of a sudden, you're almost going, well, it's 5 and 6 then. There's no... Yeah. So Sunday, I don't think Sunday... I mean, Ped, you're looking at me like you want to throw something at me, but...
No, I don't. I think you're being very honest.
How big is Sunday? Because if we don't get it Sunday, I honestly think... you never know, but I would say that that's more than one foot in the grave.
Win Sunday. I think Sunday's a must-win now. An absolute must-win. Because just to pull them back into it, and keep teams close to us. It's not a particularly good bottom half of the table, but you talk about the fixtures there, and we've played all the teams who we needed to beat, and they beat us, most of them. And we just don't. I looked at last night, and I have seen different views on last night. Of course, a lot of people will be in the camp of, well, what did you expect? We're playing the top of the league, but I just looked at those 2 games, and again, I thought we started quite well last night. I thought we had a good game plan, and I thought we had a little bit of a threat going forward on the counter-attack. But once it got into the box, it all stopped. And exactly the same happened on Saturday against a very average Villa team. And that's the constant, isn't it? It doesn't really matter what happens between, the 2 penalty boxes. Once the opposition get into our box, 4 last night, 2 at the weekend, and there's none for us, and that's the problem. And I don't think it really matters who we play. Yeah, they've destroyed this football club's been destroyed by an inability to recognise that you need more than one striker in the Premier League. Which, to me, if that was any other business, any other walk of life, maybe apart from governing the country, I think people would be asking serious questions, and the said company would go bust. Or certainly, there would be people would be removed at the highest levels of it for not functioning properly, and that's where we are. And I feel really, really sad about the situation. I'm not angry about the situation. I'm just really, really sad, because I think you can sit there and be defeatist and almost throw your toys out the pram and say, "Oh, we're going down, that's it," and it's like a faux thing. I genuinely believe we're going down, and it just I feel helpless. Feel helpless about it, because you're watching the games and you know what should be happening, and it's not. And you look at what Ellis Sims didn't even get off the bench last night. He brings on like 3 defensive players, and you're just like,
Tom Davis ended up playing centre forward.
Yeah, and I think that's where we are.
I think if anyone's watching and thinking, oh, this boys, are you, what did you expect, or are you overreacting? This, to me, my feelings about last night wasn't the result. I said all week I didn't fancy us. Ned was going, and I said could easily be another 4 or 5-0, and could see what was coming. It's not that. It's, for me, it's like those first 2 goals, and Saka's goal's brilliant, don't get me wrong, he finishes it brilliantly, but Michalenko just leaves. It's like not seeing danger. The second goal, even if you can almost go, okay, the first goal, well, the defensive shape wasn't right and we got done. The second goal, what's Garner doing? He goes and wins the ball brilliantly. If you look at the way it unfolds, right, he makes the tackle on the halfway line, and he's the first Everton player to get back and get the ball. He runs past people who maybe should go and get the ball, but he gets it. And then he looks round, because I think he thinks the referee's going to give him a free kick to Arsenal. And as he looks the other way, Martinelli or Saka just pokes it forward and Martinelli's in. And it's like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't do it. I mean, Dave, what did you think when you saw that?
I couldn't believe that I was watching a similar huge error from Garner Gay. I mean, because he's got form on that front. No, I mean, I've watched it back umpteen times, and it doesn't get any better. You know, you watch it, and you just want to scream, sort of Panto style. He's behind you. You know, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, how can you not see that? But yeah, I mean, listen, on the positives, and you know, commentators said as much. We did okay for the first, 35, 40 minutes. But then errors cost us, and then there was just a very typical capitulation, which we've seen many, many times.
Yeah.
I mean, the other concern, without going into the detail, is it affects our goal difference hugely.
Yeah.
And those 4 last night, I mean, that's a big chunk,
we were miles ahead of Bournemouth. I was looking thinking, well, that's a point because they're nowhere near.
Absolutely, but
it's like 5 goals, which
it's evening up. And I mean, for me, Sunday's huge, and I think again to the point of one foot in the grave on Sunday, and I think the reason why Sunday is so significant for me, i.e., if we don't beat them, and you'd have to say, looking at things at the moment, there's every chance that we won't get anything at their place. If we weren't so desperate for the points, I don't think any of us would be particularly confident about getting anything there. But it's an absolute necessity. I think the reason why Sunday's so significant for me is because, in my mind, and this does help my /our cause, is I'm earmarking a plummet from Forest so that they actually end up going down. I have nothing against Nottingham Forest whatsoever. In fact, I have quite a few friends who are Forest fans, and I think they're a grand old club. And actually, I'm very pleased to see them back in the top flight. But this is dog eat dog. And therefore, in order just to save our own arse here, is that I have earmarked them to occupy one of those bottom 3 places, albeit rather hopefully, more than anything else. And I think that if we don't beat them, I think that to me is a real statement, and it's a real chink in our arm, or whatever the expression is. Do you know what I mean? I think
ultimately, if you can't beat a team like Forest, home or away, then you are where you are, aren't you?
Is it? I mean, at least a point is an absolute necessity, isn't it?
I think we have to win, though.
No, I kind of.
I think we have to win as well. I think especially. See, ordinarily, Baz. Ordinarily, you'd say, yeah, do you know what? We need a point there and a point there. But this would all be dependent upon more games in front of us. And I think the problem that we have, and going back to the rather depressing stats that you mentioned before, in terms of those 5 wins. And how little opportunity we have to get them, I think this is an absolute necessity. Yeah. But here's the frustrating thing: is that we all know that if they play in the sense that it's an absolute do or die must win cup final, right? And they have to start doing that away from home as well.
Got to.
I have to start doing it. You can't just say, "Oh, we'll turn it on at Goodison in front of 40,000 of our own fans." Bollocks to that. You've got to do it everywhere, right? Because you need points everywhere. Even if you're going for the win and you end up with a point, whatever. At least you've given it a go, right? And they've got to start doing that. And the frustrating thing is that we know, based upon the result against Arsenal, for example, and some of the performances that we've seen under Dyche, is that they're fully capable of winning away at Forest. Fully capable of doing it if they actually apply themselves and don't make stupid mistakes. I mean, Garner's got to be dropped now, surely.
What do you think, Pat? Do you think he'll drop?
I don't think he will be dropped. I think it was a terrible mistake, but I also think he's played well in the last 2 or 3 games.
Yeah.
And I don't know who you replace him for, Dave. I think that's the major problem.
Sorry, I'm going back to you now, but if the way to is the way to look at this game, if this was at Goodison Park, we'd expect to win on Saturday, wouldn't we? Regardless of what's going on.
Yeah.
Wouldn't we, when you look at them,
I think Forest will stay up because of their home form. So you've got to disrupt that, haven't you? You've got to beat them at home.
Because you might send them into a negative spin.
Yeah, exactly.
You?
And you need to drag another one in there. And you read out the names before of the games, and it's you do struggle to think where we're going to pick up the points. And of course, football doesn't always work like that. But when you haven't got a goal scorer, there has to be some give, doesn't there? And there has to be some upward momentum. There has to be some positivity. And if we were to lose 3 games in a week, going into games against Brentford and Chelsea, I think a lot of people fear the worst, and that negativity will then continue into the stadium, and then we know what the offshoot is from that.
Do you think Dom will be involved? He didn't rule him out last night, and I think it's getting to the stage where it's desperate now, and that is that's not the right answer.
I don't know. And what Dom would you get?
Yeah.
What Dom would you get? Does he need 2 or 3 games to get himself up to speed? Well, what did he do? What did he do? I just think it's a really horrible position to be in, because you just look at the bench and you ask where are the solutions, and there aren't any solutions to the problems, and everybody else seems to have something they can call on, whether it's a Southampton with a world prowess free kick or
or West Ham with bloody Danny Ings and stuff, and it's things like that, and that's the thing that pissed me off the most the other day. I know I've kind of harped on about him a few times, but it's just because, he was one of those players that was available. And I mean, I know they want, and he knows where the net is, and he scores goals, and he and he did exactly at the weekend what we know he can do. And I know he's injury prone, and I know he was too expensive and whatever, but, we're talking about desperate times here, and if it weren't him, then somebody else like him, but it had to be, an absolute priority that we got another forward option in.
Yeah.
Somebody who can score some goals. And the fact that they didn't, and the likely effect of that, if we're talking about the worst, which of course we are, is that's almost criminal.
Yeah.
In terms of that's criminal negligence.
No, it is. Dave, it's why lads and girls, and me included, are marching up Spellow Lane every game, because this can't go on. I know I don't want to drag this into the other stuff, but this just can't go on.
Do you think that
these people are destroying our football club?
No, I know.
They're destroying it.
Do you think that Everton? We know, don't we, that Everton were only able to spend £5 million in January before Anthony Gordon. So they were only able to spend £5 million without getting, before the Premier League had to approve the deal. Do you think Everton should have put pressure on the Premier League as a football club and gone, we understand what your concerns are, however, you're putting our Premier League safety at, don't you know?
No, they're but when you're in it, that's passing the blame on now. Yeah. I think the days have gone now where we have to, as a fan base, and I'm sorry to go all militant here, but I think as a fan base, it's the same arguments I keep on seeing about Dominic Calvert-Lewin this and Dominic Calvert-Lewin that. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's been injured for 18 months. Yeah. Me and Dave said at the beginning, literally on the first episode of this, that we thought he was done. That was back in August. This football club has got to take complete responsibility for that, of not going out and getting a second striker who's capable of scoring goals. It's completely on them. I'm not asked if you think Dominic Calvert-Lewin can't be bothered getting out of bed in the morning, or is too busy doing this, or too busy doing a advert for shavers. I couldn't care less. It's on the football club. They have made a massive mistake. You can have your owner coming out saying, well, we're getting a striker, and then blaming it on Dan Juma walking away or whatever. It's their fault. It's their fault. And
no,
as
I'm not absolving them of blame.
I'm
just saying.
No, but the thing is, though, we can't. What the FA can just come out and go, or the Premier League, sorry, just go. It's a rule. See,
I see it as an extra failing on their part. On Everton's football club's part, the board, the owner, as to why if Danny Ings, and I don't know whether we might have discussed it on here, Dave, at the time, but we certainly did. He done a press conference when Everton were linked with Danny Ings, and he mentioned a couple of things about him, like he liked him. And then, when West Ham signed him, they asked him about him, and his face was fuming, Frank Lampard. Now, whether or not
I
Frank
remember
Lampard was the right man or whatever, but his answer was very unlike Lampard at the time, because he'd been so cool and collected, and he almost snapped back as if you could say he was someone he wanted.
Yeah.
And if Everton could only offer 5 million and Villa wanted 10, 12 million down payment for him, which you think what West Ham paid for him, then Everton, in my opinion, should have gone to the Premier League and gone, okay, we'll sell someone by June the 30th again then. We'll do the same thing.
Yeah.
It's right. You're absolutely right, and I absolutely agree with you. And to be honest, you're right. We need to remove the excuses because it's the football club that's done this. But what I mean is, that would have shown me they were fighting for it still, even.
Fighting for it,
but the fact that they just gone, no,
you're right. You know, if they suddenly had to, if things are that tight and they suddenly had to find £10 million from somewhere, and that was going to result in the sale of a couple or three or whatever, you know, minor squad players or whatever it is, I don't know. They could have done that because they needed to get that player in then. I mean, whoa. I mean, but that in itself was already the second and final chance, because that striker should have been bought last summer, right? But wasn't. So we've already lost half the season without, you know, capable firepower up front. So this January thing was an absolute must-have.
Yeah,
and they didn't do it.
Absolutely.
You know, and here we are, you know, and without, you know, trying to overcook it, it's like watching it's like watching a loved one die.
It is.
That's how it's like.
It is,
and you're helpless. You sit there, you
completely
support,
helpless.
and you're helpless, and you don't even. I can't even get like. I get like frustrated when players do things they did last night. Like, I'll never understand in a million years why defenders run to the goal line instead of marking a player who's on his own. It's almost like, we'll go to the line, if he hits it, we can block it. No, mate, go and put pressure on the ball. Put pressure on the ball. He hasn't got a free shot at the goal, like for the third goal. Embarrassing. And that winds me up. But you do sit there. Like, I sat there on Saturday against Villa at half time thinking, if we had like Dom fit when he's on form, or another striker, Danny Ings it might be, Dave, like you said, someone who goes into the right areas, we'd have been 2 up at half time against Villa. It'd been a different game. And Everton wouldn't be where they are. And then you see Saturday night Danny Ings scoring more goals in 3 minutes than Maupai's got all season. And they're both because he's in the right area. Both of them. He's just in between the posts ready to score. And it's like, that's what we need. Something like, if it wasn't Danny Ings, fine, but get
somebody else,
like that.
Somebody, you know, and don't tell me that there was nobody available. Don't tell me that. It's bollocks. It's absolute bollocks.
Ped read a thing out from the Fanavazi board with questions for the board. Good questions. And the board's answer, and it was about the January transfer window, and the board's answer was, we were looking, we identified and began our search in September for reinforcements for Frank Lampard's squad, for the first team squad.
Well, for starters, that's too bloody late, because that's the August window.
Well, exactly. So the August window went, and then they decided to identify forwards. Okay, great. Why weren't any there then on January the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th? There was nobody. There was nobody who Everton could get who would have required a down payment of £4 million or £5 million, because that's what a lot of strikers do come for. You might agree, want to buy Dave Fitty for £25 million, and his club, we'll accept the £5 million down payments. Then we'll pay you £5 million next season, 5 the year, whatever. You could have got someone who's mobile, and big. Southampton got Onachua, who's 6'7" or whatever from Belgium. Everton tried to get him at the end of the window, and then Southampton went and got him.
We take bloody Umar in the ass at the minute,
100%.
Wouldn't we?
100%, because he's more mobile, or was more mobile than what. And listen, we've said it lots of times. Neil Maupai's not the answer, but Neil Maupay didn't say to Everton, "Come and get me. I'm the one who'll get you all the goals." Everton went and bought him. Then we put him in a team that didn't play the way Brighton did anyway, and certainly doesn't play the way Brentford did when he was at Brentford. Yeah. So even though I'll have a go at him and go, he's not doing enough, I'm not actually having a go at Neil Maupay, the thing. It's just he doesn't work in our system. And you can see he's got zero confidence as well, which kills strikers.
It all boils down to the same thing. It's all recruitment.
Yeah. 100%.
And that's been the case. That's the answer to all of this. Managers, staff, directors of football, everything. It's all recruitment, and just a colossal waste of money to make us into a side that's worse than it was before we started.
100%. And on that note, let's move on, because that's enough. Talking of recruitment, we recruited Andy Bush. And he's turned into be... He's not an ever... I don't think we can ever call him an ever-present, because he's not. Factually, he's not. And he's dropped the clang this morning, Dave, hasn't he? He's dropped the clang as to why he's not involved. He did indicate this week might be a little bit difficult because it's half term and he had the little one, but he's clanged us off this morning, hasn't he?
He has, yeah. I mean, he did. As far as I was aware, I thought he blamed it on. I don't think it is half term, actually. I think half term was last week. Anyway, I think he blamed it on something. I think his missus is working, which therefore leaves him more in charge of
half term
of the kids than is normal. But yeah, in addition to being a busy and hardworking dad, which he undoubtedly is.
Oh, absolutely.
Is that he is recording today an interview with Mr. Jake Bug Clang, which is why he sadly can't be here. So for fans of Andy Bush, and I know that there are many, we can only offer our apologies for his non-participation in today's performance, and that we dearly hope that he will return to his usual slot next week.
As a leadership group with us, which I'd like to call us three. Yeah. Are we concerned that we've had two different excuses, though? Is this a case of, my hamstring's a bit tight, I've got a calf injury and I can't make it? Is there any of that? For you, Ped, is there any kind of concern that we're getting mixed messaging as to why an absence is there? Or do you just think he's not mentally in the right space at the moment?
Andy Bush, ultimately, you're talking about an exciting talent on the verge of, I think, dominating the
Channel 5 marketplace.
The Channel 5 marketplace. Yeah. I think he's on the verge. I think that'll be his next cusp. That'll be his next big move. He's an exciting talent. He's a prospect.
He's a man who you have given obviously a catchphrase to,
which is of course, that's my name, you tit. And I expect him to maybe take over the Jane McDonald slot very, very soon.
Can we see Andy do
hang on. Go on, Dave. Just before we go down this inevitable cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
Right? Are you proposing, Peter McPartland?
Yes. Full tight.
Cruising with Bush.
I think that's
it does give me
a connotation.
Well, you've got both sides of it though, haven't you? You've got Ambush, which is obviously the more hard hitting. Because I actually think, because I was listening to something on the way in, I was listening to a podcast and it was about a gangster, and they were talking about like Roger Cook.
Are you accusing Andy Bush of being in the criminal underworld?
Oh, okay, sorry. And I was thinking, it was like they were talking about Roger Cook back in the day.
Okay.
And I was thinking you could have Andy Bush as the hard hitting journalist trying to catch crooks in Marbella. Right, and that would be Ambush. And that,
Ambush,
so take
like
it from
that,
the funny connotation of like the
to
wacky,
more serious. So, who was that fella, Donald Thingy, who used to
Trump,
No, not Donald Trump.
Sorry.
Donald D-O-double-N-A. Another
ex-dancing
on ice person as well as
Dave. Donald McIntyre.
Donald McIntyre, who went undercover a couple of times. And are you suggesting Bush will go undercover?
I think Bush is multifaceted. On one hand, he will be Ambush.
Yes, that's my name, you tit.
And then on the other side, cruising with Bush.
See, when I think of cruising with Bush, I just think of something like Hull to Rotterdam ferry or something like that. That's the image that I get.
I was thinking like canal.
No, he goes to Australia and it's Bush on Bush.
Bush on bush action.
Will it be pixelated bits of it?
Maybe just a big koala bears.
Only in Japan. The bush on bush would be pixelated. Is that what we're saying?
Maybe.
Full pixelation.
Bush on bush.
Bush on bush.
Bush on bush action. I think it's yeah.
There's something there.
There is.
Yeah, there is.
There's something there.
There is.
Bush meets Aborigines.
No, I mean that just doesn't work, does it?
No, not as a catchphrase, but I'd like to see him doing this kind of thing. Bush in Perth. Meeting expats. No, if there's in Australia after he's done Bush on Bush, he could then go around different parts. Yeah. Sydney Bush.
I think we start with Bush on Bush, and then we can.
I like cruising with Bush more though. I think.
Yeah. What if we send them to university to do a masters, and we call it something like a fully developed Bush?
But that's playing the long game, and the fella's got to go. Can he not just get like a masters like that Kale gets, or Denise Farabach gets with?
Surely Leon C are passing out honorary degrees.
They must be
to people like Bush.
Bush should surely have it. Bush with honours.
I think so. Bush with honours.
Honorary Bush.
Honorary Bush.
There's lots of them, isn't there? There's lots of possibilities.
I would like to see Bush in a cap and gown.
There you go.
I mean, and that would be in many ways that would be impressive, Bush. I think.
There you go. And again,
or we send them round to the best barbers in the country. We call it a trimmed bush.
What about if you went the Alps and it becomes shepherd's bush? He just had to look after goats and stuff for a week.
Yeah. I mean. Really, I mean, he in many ways, he's a TV commissioner's dream, isn't he?
He is.
Because the possibilities are endless. In fact, and this is maybe where we need to be clever with all of this, because if we are all agreed that he is on the cusp of Bush greatness, right? Is that I think that maybe we need to step in here and make sure that we don't get left out of the loop. I.e., we need to be his management team behind all of this, and therefore we need to trademark all of these potentially award-winning Bush TV series, so that we can, have control of his career.
Didn't he make TVs? Wasn't it a TV thing called Bush?
There was Bush tellies. Yeah.
What if Andy Bush goes around the world tracking lookalikes, and we call it Two in the Bush?
Yep.
It's worth how many in the hand? There you go. See, that's another trademark. See, this episode 25, 1878. This is acting as the trademark. You know the way you have to write the letter with your ideas on and get it date and stamp to prove you were the fair, and send it to Royal Mail, and they'd send it somewhere like a PO box so that you had the copyright. Yeah. It was my idea on this date.
Or to riff off one of our favourite films, Three Amigos. We could get him to learn how to sing, and he could be the singing Bush.
What a bit in the film, by the way. Great, you've killed an invisible swordsman. What a film.
What an up-to-date reference.
But that's a great film.
It is a great film.
It's classic Bush.
Yeah, those are the sort of films I like to watch.
Yeah, they're brilliant. We've got some good ideas there.
Channel 5 will become a calling.
She must. I mean, she's definitely coming towards the twilight now, Jane McDonald, of them cruises. The
twilight of what?
Of her career. No, not a life.
No, I just think it needs a refresh.
But it needs a rebrand. And Bush, cruising with Bush, could be the one.
If we're talking about in the days of equality, you need a male version, don't you?
Well. Absolutely,
you need a male version, and what better male is there to have a good look at a bush?
Why not? In this world,
I believe
you've got to look at everything, haven't you? Whether that's no bush, bit of bush. I mean, there's lots of stuff. He could just have he could do shorts, and then it will be a bit of bush. Like YouTube shorts, the way you've got just a little bit of it on full bush.
I see what you've done there. So you cleverly used shorts in two contexts.
Exactly, and that you have Dave because you start. So we're thinking of ideas for Channel. We've got Channel 5's programming planned for the next 3 years.
What if we send them on one ship and we go on another ship and we go looking for them and we call it
looking for bush?
No, cruising for bush.
Well, hang on, that's where we've come full circle because cruising for Bush, or was it cruising with Bush? No, cruising for Bush.
Yeah,
cruising with Bush it was, but we're going cruising
you're
for
right.
Bush.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
That's a spin-off.
What? Not in search of Bush.
That's like the ITV2 one. See, if Channel 5 had a backup channel, you'd have cruising with Bush. But what he wouldn't know is we were on the next one. Let's just call it the Lusitania.
Yeah.
And we go.
Did that survive? That one survived, didn't it?
And we're like shadowing him, so we're cruising.
Shadow bush? I don't know about that.
We're cruising for bush.
Not in search of bush.
We're on like, maybe, I don't know, he's on like the top boat. We're on the lesser boat.
Yeah.
We're in two different perspectives, you know, for bush or on bush.
I mean, I do quite like the idea.
We're on the same boat and we're making just the counterpoints of the tea. So
could we
go,
be like,
this is amazing, and we'll go over and go, no, that's horrible. That.
Could we be like the gorilla thing of like, there's Bush testing a new 17-course meal
while he's
filming him. We're getting the B-roll, with Bush.
B-roll with Bush. Beekeeping with Bush.
And then Dave could do like the healthy aspects, and it could be called Vitty Does Vitamins. Something like that, just little offshoots.
Yeah. I mean,
we could go. I've got a new
Ass with Cass.
I've got another one. He could train. He could train to be a wrestler, and he could be the new bushwhacker.
There's a lot. You know what? There's a
lot there.
There's a lot.
I mean, it's a name which affords him many possibilities.
Versatility, I like to call it.
Versatility with Bush. Yeah, versatility Bush.
You know, there's a lot of, and then if in some episodes we could like take his involvement down and just call it like trim back Bush.
Yeah. I think what we're all saying here is that much as we would like to manipulate him, and you know, in many ways take advantage of him and his position in the media industry, we do need him back, I think, don't we? And you know,
not to just run these ideas by him.
Yeah, I think we do need to have him back, because he's been the opposite of an ever-present.
Yes.
I think you'll find, by the way, talking of which, I think I'm the only one who's been here for every episode so far.
You are ever-present, and that is fine. We certainly haven't got ever, and thank God we haven't got ever-present Bush. That's not my thing. Ned's just done a picture. He's going to put it on. Put it on, and we'll send it to Dave in a minute. Okay, so that is George W. Bush in what looks like a tree or a bush. George W. Bush in bush. Bush in a bush.
Bush on bush.
Bush on. Well, we've done that, didn't we? With the
I know, but it'd be a different context.
It will be a different context. So,
do you ever feel, Dave, that your life's been wasted because of your second name?
I don't think wasted.
Well, I mean, it certainly it doesn't you know, it doesn't give me as many possibilities as our aforementioned friend. That's for sure. You know, but you can only work with what you've been given.
That's it.
I mean,
Vitty.
Andy Bush. I told you. Vitamins with Vitty. Andy Bush has actually sent in a question for the show today. So that's how good.
Great that he's taken part.
He's taken part.
Okay, well, that's nice of him.
And what he said is, have you ever seen a famous person at a service station? He said, I've seen Ian Holloway at Keele. So he's gone with Ian Holloway at Keele being the most famous person he's seen at a service station.
Well, listen, and I'm about to blow your mind here.
Okay, well,
this
was for you. Go on.
I too have seen a celebrity at Keele Services, and there's not even a joke.
Go for it.
Okay.
And his name is Aliash. You know, the professional dancer from Strictly.
Oh, the fellow who won it.
He did win it with Abby Clancy, I believe.
There you go.
But he's danced with many people. But I saw Aliash in the W.H. Smith at Keele Services Southbound. Incredible. And I was buying a Turkish Delight, and I don't know what he was buying. I was behind him in the queue.
That is fair play. I've seen Jolie and Lescott at Oxford Services.
Good one.
Many played for Everton.
Yeah, it's nice services that they've got.
They're
like
very nice, aren't they?
Yeah, they're very nice, modern and lakey.
Yeah, they are, and especially like obviously that was around the time going down for the FA Cups, you know, semi-finals, and when you go down for cup finals and whatever, around that time of the year when it's a bit of a balmy day, and they're
it's
lovely,
lovely services. Good place to stop for a wee as well, because if you go any further than that, you know, you're starting to get into the outskirts of London. Things start to get a bit iffy, you know. But actually, that's a good tactical stop for a wee.
It's very good. Just pause.
Yeah.
Look at the back of that telly there, the monitor.
It's a bush.
It's Bush. I just noticed it then after we missed it. But there you go. We've got we're monitoring Bush.
Yeah. That's
what we're doing
Bush screen.
Monitoring Bush. Have you seen anybody famous at service stations?
I thought once I saw Paul Burrell, but it wasn't him.
Oh, what, as in Diana's former
Why
butler?
was he stood in the sweet aisle going, ooh, ha, ooh, ha, and just telling people about Diana?
I thought it was him, but it wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that... Okay, I mean, fair enough. Look-alike. You've seen a Paul Burrell look-alike. That.
Do you know, I think I may have seen, and this is unconfirmed reports, but when I was out on my bike about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think I saw Michael Burke, you know, the newsreader.
Okay.
Or former newsreader. I'm pretty sure it was him. Yes. I did think about stopping and asking him.
But you felt like a Burke if he wouldn't have been him.
Yeah.
Well, I'm your Burke.
Yeah, you did. I didn't do it. Which
play.
isn't the best story in the world, I know, but you know it is a story.
I'm Vitty, you titty.
Remember when he used to host 999 on BBC One?
Yeah,
that was a great show. That
wasn't it called 999? What's your emergency or something?
Yeah,
wasn't that
I think
full
that might have been that. Probably Dave's been
title.
pedantic, but fair play.
It's like Crime Watching, it's just not as good anymore.
No. Things happen.
You know what I mean?
Things change. It doesn't got the same thing. Who's
Look,
the most
famous?
famous?
I've just looked it up. It was called 999. What's your emergency?
Dave knows. Dave knows. It's his job to know.
I went shorthand.
I don't know whether it's his
job
to know.
Shorthand.
Absolutely. Who's the most famous person you've seen on holiday?
On holiday? I don't know.
I mean, you've seen like you give us the Hollywood A-list.
I have seen like really
famous people.
Charlize Theron, Andy Garcia, most of the cast of Godfather 2, Emma Stone.
Yeah,
they were all literally like within spitting distance.
Yeah,
didn't spit.
But you were in a place where you might.
Yeah, I was in Hollywood. I was literally in Hollywood.
To be fair.
Funny enough, someone stopped me and wanted a picture with me. Well, that's a different story. That's a different story.
Absolutely classic.
It's
all good. I've seen Brian Robson on the plane.
Have you?
I saw John Macken the day after he'd scored against Everton when City beat us 5-1. Sorry, 2 days after.
That's not what you want, is it?
In Barney, in Universal Studios, watching Barney.
I met Alessandro Pastoni in Disney World.
Yeah. I've seen Mark Pembridge in Epcot.
I'd ever seen in my life.
Mark Pembridge in Epcot when he left Everton with Everton shorts on.
Former City winger Jesus as well. Met him in Disneyland Paris.
Navas, yeah.
Navas.
Yeah, you did.
What a place.
I saw Gareth Gates in Alton Towers.
Tremendous.
Next to the log ride.
Good old Gaz. Say it isn't so.
Around the bins.
Gareth Gates.
And I've stayed in the same hotel as Stan Boardman.
Well, I'm surprised it wasn't. I'm surprised there wasn't any kind of attack by the Germans on it.
Well, do you know what? It's funny you should say that, and actually that and
it's funny
genuinely,
you should say that. That's just come out of David's mouth.
Genuinely, we didn't arrange this, right?
Okay.
I mean, we haven't had any pre-production meeting or anything, right? So what happened was
for this? No, absolutely
not.
No.
So it wasn't like like Dave tell the Stan Boardman story.
Yeah.
So I was away with my current ex-wife many moons ago.
Yeah.
And we were staying in this hotel in Mallorca, but it's a German-run hotel, right?
Okay.
And when we get out there, and we've got our little one, and we go to the pool bar at about 10 o'clock at night, and just to go and get something to eat, and because we've been traveling all day.
Yeah.
And anyway, we get there, and I realise on the table next to us is Andrea Boardman, former kids TV presenter, who I used to know years ago, and then she's there with Dad, Stan, and Mum, and all the family. Anyway, we end up kind of like moving. She's like, "Oh, hi, love, how are you?" Blah, blah, blah. We end up kind of moving our tables together, and we have a couple of drinks with them.
Yeah.
The next morning, you have to do what you do in most German hotels, which is to go and stick the towels down on the beds, right, early doors before breakfast. So I get up at about 8 o'clock in the morning and go and do the towels thing. And as I go down to the pool, I kid you not, Stan is having a stand-up row, right, with this fella on a sunbed. And he's saying, "Did you move our towels? Did you move our towels off the beds?" And the guy's saying, "Oh my God, those were our beds. Did you move our..." Anyway, he's having this proper stand-up row with him, right? At which point, the hotel manager, who's a very kind of smooth German guy, comes down and he kind of goes, "Mr. Boardman, should we have this conversation back in the reception?" Eyes away from all of the watching people who are now sort of, watching this as a bit of a show.
Of course, yeah.
And then as he walks along the poolside, and I'm there kind of, earwigging what's going on as I'm taking my time putting the towels on our beds. And he sees me and he's like, all right, Davey. He goes, I'm in trouble with the Germans again. And then off he goes. And then that was it. And that was day one. That was day one on what was a week-long holiday as Stan Boardman in a German-run hotel. And yeah, every day was just kind of more and more antics from him. So true story.
Classic Boardman.
Classic Boardman.
Classic.
He made a living off Germans.
He did make a living off.
So why not? He made a good living off the Germans. So
fair play. Neil Dutton on Twitter, good mate of mine actually. Neil, Sheffield Wednesday fan, says this is an important question, and I think me and you have talked about this before.
Then it could be anything,
right? Why won't Cadbury UK bring back the Spider? Don't they realise this could unite the nation? That's a question. Do you remember Spiders, Dave?
No, and this is why I feel I can't take part in this. I don't remember
the Hong Kong years.
It might have been in the Hong Kong years. So, I don't remember the Spider. What was it?
Spider.
Oh, Spider. I beg your pardon. Sorry, yes, I do. I thought you said Spider. No, no, I remember the Spider.
You've ruined it now.
You've ruined it because you know. But the Spider was versatile. We talked about Bush being versatile before. The Spider.
Wasn't it a bit like a boost or a flake?
It was a bit like it was more like it was like a twirl effect in terms of two fingers,
like
but it was a spiral, obviously, and had like a hole in the top. Many people used to drink tea through, which I thought was.
So it was made of like dairy milk chocolate.
Yeah.
So I remember this because this is a childhood memory of mine.
Go on.
Because my mum and dad used to own a sweet shop, video shop.
Yeah.
Great times. It's why I have such good video knowledge, and it's why my teeth are fucking shit.
And diabetes.
I occasionally used to go to wholesalers with them, and I remember the Spira craze because you were only allowed one box per shop.
Was it the prime of its day?
Honestly, it was the prime of its day. It was on a big blue pallet.
Yeah.
And you were only allowed. I mean, it was a lot more civil than prime.
Yeah. People went fighting over.
You know, you were only allowed one, but it was a wonderful chocolate. I remember because it was hard. It was you know you had to really bite into it, and it long and it had a lovely texture to it as well, which made it nice. And I think it's right that they do bring it back because ultimately, you know, dairy milk are king, and they are the finest of chocolates. They are. And they should bring Spira back.
Bring it back. Let's do it. Neil Dutton is exactly right. Bring it back.
I would support that. Do you know what I had the other day? And I don't think I've ever had one before. And I thought, how have I got to my late 30s in life and having never tried this treat? I was in Halford.
To your late 30s.
Anyway, I was in Halford. And so
you just skate over that. Go on, carry on.
On the counter at Halford's, for some reason, they were selling like Cadbury Boosts.
Okay,
right?
Boosts.
You know the way they sell stuff at the counter because you sort of, it's like an impulse buy.
It's a panic, isn't it? It's a panic
Absolutely.
buy.
You've gone in there for de-icer and screen wash, and then while you're there, you think, oh, do you know what? For another whatever 80p or a pound, I'll have a Boost.
Yeah.
So I did. And I don't think I'd ever tried it. And I have to say, it ticked all of my chocolate boxes. And that's not a phrase that I've said before.
I was going to say, Dave, I mean, that might be a different podcast, but there you go.
It ticked them all. And I thought, wow, this is a taste sensation. And to the point that actually, next time I was in a shop that you would more readily associate with confectionery rather than Halford's, I actually bought a packet of Boosts, and I think that they are in many ways one of my favourites.
Fair play. Was there a different type of Boost? Wasn't it two types of Boost?
This was like caramel, definitely.
Caramel and a biscuit.
There was a little feature this morning as I was flicking over, and I did see that there was some kind of, well, you know, it's Easter time, there's always limited edition.
Of course.
And I did see there was some kind of limited edition was it not Whisper? What's the other one? There's another one. I can't remember what it was.
No. Are you talking about the orange twirl here?
No, not the the orange
Dave,
twirl.
That was so 2019.
We had people going up and down the country trying to get us orange twirls.
Sending us stuff.
When people went to away games, they would help themselves a lot of the time. I would
possibly
find. Because football fans do tend to help themselves to things.
The white cream eggs have got to go. I'm afraid. I've not tried one, but I'm not having it.
I'm not a big fan of white chocolate anyway. In fact, to be honest with you, I'm not a big fan. Controversial, maybe. Spoiler alert. I'm not a huge fan of cream eggs. Full stop.
Oh, I don't mind. I mind them around now, but yeah, I mean, it's good that they're not available all year round.
It's the kind of the white.
What is it? Do you know what I mean? You're eating
exactly. What is it?
You don't know what it is.
You see, if it's caramel,
though, is it?
If it's caramel, you know what it is.
Yeah.
But it's just the kind of, it's sort of a slightly, mysterious white sticky substance in the middle.
I don't think you should go near anything that's white and mysterious and sticky.
Not again.
No. Not this week.
Not for Dave's chocolate box, anyway. Chris McNally says, is salad cream the go-to sauce for cheese and onion on toast?
I don't think I've ever eaten salad cream in my life. That's just a fact.
Cheese and onion on toast. I mean, we're talking crisps, obviously, are we? Or actual cheese and onion?
No, I think he's talking cheese and onion. Real cheese, melted cheese. With
real cheese and onion?
I don't know, apparently. I mean, I've had cheese on... I mean, not for years, but I've had a bit of Welsh rarebit in my time. But I would never have dabbled with salad cream on it.
No.
Maybe a bit of brown sauce, maybe. But I can't even remember really doing that. But I wouldn't have thought salad cream would accompany that, Dave, would you?
Not for me, but then again, I tend to put like sort of spicy kind of mayo on everything.
Yeah,
which kind of does that for me.
Yeah, I like the peri, the hot peri.
Yeah, or do you know what? There's a really good there's a Nando's spicy kind of Peronaise or whatever I think it's called.
Yeah,
the hot one. That's good on everything. Yeah. That makes everything like more interesting.
I think that's the one I meant, to be honest. I think you've nailed it.
Yeah, no, that's good. I'm a big fan.
Mark Ellison has said, receding hairlines, leave it there or shave it off. What's the?
Well, I feel almost qualified to do this because I think I've got quite a high hairline, even though I've got a lot of hair.
Yeah,
I've got kind of high
mine's
hairline.
there as well, mate.
I wouldn't. But that's just one of those things, I think that's probably, from years of inbreeding. My mum's from the island, man. So I mean, these things happen, unfortunately. And you have to do with the. You get dealt a certain hand, don't you? But I wouldn't be advocating shaving my hair off for that reason. But I think that when you get to the point, and I'm trying to think of a good example, Alan Shearer maybe is a good example, who for years sort of had that very little bit on the top, and you just thought, just shave it off. And he now has. But I think if that's the question, if it's nearly gone, just get rid.
I think you've got to be. Yeah. I think you've got to just attack it full on. Yeah. I had quite an interesting chat with Joe last week when I was making a coffee. Joe, one of the younger lads here, who is, how old's Joe? Like mid-20s, say? Yeah. Who's really worried about his really worried about his hairline. And he's taking all kinds of things already, buying stuff to put on and everything. He's like really worried about it. I was thinking, hey, that's not a good position to start worrying about it. No. Like,
you'll be worrying your own hair.
Exactly, you're worrying it out.
Yeah, but genuinely though, and it must be, this is getting quite serious for a minute, going from cheese and onion and Cadbury's Boost and stuff. But it must be really difficult for some people where you a lot of people do lose their hair at the age of 20, 21, 22. My brother-in-law, did. I know lots of people that did, and it must be weird. I feel. I think as we're all well-haired gentlemen, but I think for that we should be lucky.
I do think there's a TV program in there one with Andy Bush
with hair.
Yeah, I think there's something in there again.
Okay, go on then.
I can't think of a title.
But you think Bush should be presenting a hair or no hair, or like a bit like Deal or No Deal?
Trim or no trim with Bush.
I mean, you said you didn't have a title, but
I'm just throwing a title out there.
That is quite. I mean, again, the versatility of Andy Bush around Bush always returns to the fore.
Hey, listen, how about this for an idea? Now that we're brainstorming.
Now we're riffing again. Go on.
Now we're riffing, right? We're spitballing, isn't that what the Americans call it?
It is.
Yeah, we're spitballing. Is that if Andy Bush was to investigate or even showcase really, really dangerous stuff, right? Like dangerous expeditions.
Really?
Ross Kemp stuff.
Yeah, but better.
A man with no hair, but carry on.
Yeah, more funny than that.
Oh, okay.
Right? Yeah. So could it be something like Bush's hairy moments or Bush's hairy encounters? Like when really scary, hairy stuff.
Scary, hairy?
Yeah.
Would he just be targeting people who've got no hair though?
No.
Just events, just like things that
because the hair, it's just hairy moments, when life gets scary.
But that sounds like a really, really late night Channel 5 show.
That does.
So it would need a really dramatic title, like something like Shitting on Bush.
I don't think you could get away with that though, could you? Even Channel 5, is it Channel 5?
Really, really late night.
Which is the one that, it's Channel 5 or Channel 4 have Naked Attraction on?
You'd have to tell me.
Which one is it? Is it 4? 4 have always like
E4 all the time.
Oh, E4, so they love that little bit of edginess. The other night, I'll just tell you this, because I just thought it was a bit mad. So we'd been watching.
Oh, you could have a lookalike show where people brought in people who looked like Andy Bush.
Yeah.
And it could be called Show Me Your Bush.
Show Me Your Bush. That's a good. Channel 4 will pick that up. So keep that there. We've got that. Put that there. It's safe. Bully. It's with the bendy bully and your £2 bus fare to get home. So me and my missus are watching The Gold the other night, and she fell asleep as you do. So you've got it paused, haven't you? And she's gone, are you really asleep? Blah 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 blah. So when I made a drink and I come back in. And I stopped, obviously you do. So I stopped it because it's on the iPlayer. So it went back to cable, Virgin TV. And as it went back, Naked Attractions on.
Of course it was.
Of course it was.
Default.
Yeah, the default channel. The default show. And it's 2 gay men.
Okay.
Great. So they've been picked. They stood there, bolloco, everything hanging out.
As they do.
Talking of Bush, one had Bush.
As is their want.
One had Bush, one didn't have Bush. So Bush or no Bush. There's the other deal. Waiting for the young gentleman to come back on who's picking them, and he comes back on bolloco without a stitch on his birthday suit, whatever you want to. So he comes in, and the woman presenter goes like, "What do you think?" So the 2 lads are eyeing him up.
Anna Richards, the name is.
Or
Richardson. Richards.
Just call it Anna. Should we just call it Anna? Because there'll be no.
She's very good, actually. I think.
Listen, she's great at saying
Richardson. I've just checked.
Anna Richardson. She's great at saying, "Oh, do you like the lips on her, or do you like his wit?" That's what she's like. She loves it. Oh, she didn't. No detail is. There can never be too much detail with Anna. But she looks and she goes, "What do you think?" And the lad's like, one of them goes something like, "Oh, he's got nice big balls." So which Anna goes, "Would you like to have them in your mouth?"
Well, lovely, yeah.
So the fella goes something like, "Oh, yeah, I'd like to give them a whatever." And then she goes to the other fella, "Would you like to give those balls a suck as well?" And I just thought, if someone... like one of my children walked in at that moment as I've come back in from making a drink, stopped Gold, as that's on, they'd be going, "What are you watching, Dad?
Be asking questions.
What are you watching, Father?"
As I said, that's why I don't feel like any of these titles or shows we've been creating for Andy Bush are out of the reach.
No. Do you remember that one?
I was just thinking then, just while it's off my head, I was thinking, swap Noel Edmonds for Andy Bush. Yeah. And instead of money, it will be gardening stuff, and you can call it Bush or no Bush.
Yeah,
so like secretaries and stuff.
Instead of like you open the box up and it's like you win, like a penny would be like a pot plant, just a potted plant. Sorry,
a pot plant. Surely more than a penny.
And then you open it up and you get a big thing.
Lawnmower. I mean, you couldn't hide it in the box. It'd have to be the key. It'd have to be the key to it. You couldn't, because you'd choose just the big thing, wouldn't you? You'd choose the big box, which clearly has got a mower that you sit on.
Just before the leaves.
Be a lot of leaves, though, wouldn't it?
It would, but
you'd leave that, wouldn't you? Leave that one alone.
Yeah, there you go.
Cool. Sometimes,
yeah,
good things come in small packages, don't they?
Apparently so. Apparently that's what Ned tells us. But we are very doubtful with that. So yeah, there you go. I mean, we've done a lot of. We've talked about a lot of things today. I didn't think
covered a lot of ground, haven't we? I mean, considering we had not a great deal of source material today, but I think that we have masked that well. And I think that, nobody having watched this for the last hour would think that we were padding in any way.
I don't see it as padding. I just see it as open discussion. I think the Bush code has been cracked. I think, if you ever see a crack with Bush and you have to take it there. I think we took questions from the audience.
Yeah, we did, which is always one of my favourite.
We've discussed the Spider, which I didn't think when I got up this morning, mulling over Everton's latest defeat, that a Spider would be discussed. And I certainly didn't think we'd be talking about following Andy Bush around on a cruise. So, I think we've covered a lot of broad subjects. So there you go.
I mean, the one thing that we should say is that Jane McDonald needs to perhaps look over her shoulder.
Absolutely,
because she's got Bush right behind her.
She really has. And
maybe she could have last one. And this could be just filling out.
Go on.
The cruise looking for the show called Looking for Bush, where she's on one boat, he's on another.
This
and
sounds
it's
like,
almost like a
this
game
sounds
of
like the one we were playing before.
But I'm going to involve Jane McDonald. This is going to be a final.
Is this,
and it's going to be a big game of hide and seek, or maybe like a game of battleships. Andy Bush is on one boat. He's trying to keep himself hidden from her. There are various different boats that he could be on, and she's looking for Bush.
I feel like we used that before. That's fine.
No,
but now you're giving it to McDonald as her soiree, as her golden handshake before she gets off. Fair play.
Gets off the boat.
Gets off the boat.
And on that note,
there we go.
On that note, let's leave it there because I had another one I was going to bring out and I'm not going to.
Let's go.
Let's keep it there. Dave, great to speak to you as always,
and
mate.
You.
Have a good one. And
Barry, Peter, next week.
Cheers, mate.
Talking about a win. Take care. See you later. Bye bye.